To stop the threat of Cobra, the Joes bring out the big guns. Here's your look at the new Hasbro G.I. Joe Classified Series, figure number 1, Roadblock. G.I. Joe is a highly skilled, on-demand special operations force of men and women from around the globe. These extraordinary talented heroes are selected for their elite abilities and tasked with defending the world from Cobra, a ruthless criminal organization bent on total domination. Technically, I did do these reviews slightly out of order, only because Roadblock is really the first figure of the new first wave of G.I. Joe Classified Series. But because I consider Duke to be the leader of the Joes, even though I was a bigger fan of Flint growing up, that was the reasoning why we're looking at Roadblock now. Stopping the tape measure to the very top of his head, Roadblock is going to be a taller figure than both Scarlett and Duke. Oh, don't worry, I'll show you guys some comparisons in a second. That translates to the figure of Roadblock standing 6.8 inches in height, and that in centimeters makes the figure 17.2, so a little over 17 centimeters tall. Here's where we've left off in the G.I. Joe Classified Series. We've already had a look at Duke, and we just recently had a look at Scarlett. We can bring those figures in right now. Again, I really do like this line. One thing that does stand out as I'm certainly looking at all three figures before we tackle the rest of the Classified Series is I can't help but notice that they have used different golds on all the three figures. Roadblock, Scarlett, and Duke. Duke is a more closer to silver, Scarlett is a more closer to copper, and in the middle, Roadblock is more of a color of gold. So I'm not really sure why specifically they had to use different golds. You would have kind of thought that they would have used the same golds all across the entire board. That doesn't seem to be the case. Needless to say, Roadblock is considerably taller than both Duke and the Scarlett figure that we've already had a look at. Yeah, not really sure why they had to use different gold, but nonetheless, though, let's have a look at the accessories that come included with the new Roadblock. He gets what I can guess as being some sort of energy railgun. It's considerably large, the type of gun you would expect to be wielded by Roadblock. Now, there's a couple of different ways it seems that you can actually hold it. The way I like to actually hold it is his hands on both the top handle and the side handle of the gun. But there's also a handle down below here as well. I've seen some images actually where he actually holds it on top of his shoulder, almost as if he's holding a bazooka. But again, for me, when it comes to displaying the figure, I like to take the arms, bend those accordingly, take the handle of the railgun, I'm just going to call it a railgun, and just slide the handle into one grip of his hand, and then navigate your way around to the other side and just attach his hand like so. There's not very much give, I have to say, for the plastic that they're using for the hands. I've already done this a couple of times where as I've tried to fit this into Roadblock's other hand, I felt this handle sort of jiggle and wiggle. That's fine for the time being, but certainly I worry that that's going to develop stress marks. Last thing I certainly would want to have break is that. So that is one way you can display it. For me, I think that's the primary way of displaying it. Or, what you can also do, everybody take a good, get a good look at that. Or what you can also do too is just detach that. You can remove this. I've seen some images where they've actually had Roadblock holding it like this, almost seeming as if he's got himself like some sort of bazooka. But it doesn't make sense for me, at least, because he's got so much of this sitting further back. Doesn't make, like I said, it doesn't make too much sense for me. Or you can also go ahead and you can attach it this way. Now this is the hardest of the three. As I already mentioned, like the fingers are so hard of plastic. It's actually hard to kind of get your fingers in between there to get his hand held onto the grip of this. But basically he's holding it like this as well. I mean, that's again a lot of excess. I guess you could bring this around and still have him holding it, but I feel like it just makes more sense having it holding it from the top. Put the figure down here for a second. I just want to show you the details done to it. There's actually an extra piece that goes in here as well. Primarily, it's more of a dark gunmetal silver. with the accents of red that actually is the similar style of red that he has on his outfit as well. And then he's got the blue, which seems to start making appearances in a lot of the Joes. They all have little accents of the neon blue. He's got it down below there along the top, and just at the front, the exit way point of whatever blast he's going to be firing out. As a nice touch, I certainly like that this is done in translucent blue plastic. I don't think the entire thing is done in blue plastic. It actually seems like it stops right there. And I don't believe the entire thing, like I said, is just painted over translucent plastic. I think it's, like I said, it's only that front section right here. As I said, it does come in two parts. It's a clip that fits just underneath there. But even like the clip has a more futuristic design to it. It doesn't even look like it would hold and house a round of ammunition. It looks like it's actually more like an energy pack than anything else. And that just fits just underneath there to complete the look. It's different. It's not, of course, the more military end of thing. It certainly falls more into the science fiction realm of G.I. Joe, but it still serves what I would imagine. Like, if you're going to advance and upgrade Roadblock to having more, like I said, futuristic weapons, I almost would imagine this would be the kind of weapon that he would possess. So we'll put that to the side. There is no section that I can see where this fits anywhere on his back. I would believe anyways, even if this fit onto his back, it would be nice if they put like a peg right there that you could just attach it like so. We could just imagine, for the sake of using our imaginations, of course, that this is magnetized in the real world, and you know, he just magnetizes that to his back. They could, again, put a little peg there, but I guess that would stand out a bit like a sore thumb. He does have a noticeable peg hole on the back that you can take other figures, for example, like we had a look at Duke's backpack. That just fits onto his back as well. If, you know, if you want to armor him up, if you want to weaponize him, if you will. So he does have that. And then Roadblock also comes included with a knife. Now the knife can fit into his hands. The grip is not too large that the knife doesn't fall through. So that's at least good. Or if you like to conceal it, not overly conceal it, you can still see the handle. You can fit that in, slide it into the sheath that's located on the front of his vest here. And that's, for me, the place obviously where I'm going to keep it, because I'm going to be packing Roadblock with some considerable firepower. That's the way I'm going to be displaying the figure. So those are the accessories. Technically, he comes with 3. If you don't count the fact that he does have that little removable additional energy pack that fits underneath there, he technically only comes with 2. So let's have a look at Roadblock. Changes have certainly been made to these figures, but they still feel very much like the stuff that I would have grown up with. This is sort of more Roadblock version 2, having more the olive-colored top vest, whereas the original Roadblock, I believe, didn't have this. It was like the second release Roadblock that had this type of outfit. And like Scarlett, I mean, there's enough nods to the original vintage line where this looks like a logical upgrade for what Roadblock could look like right now. The only thing I would have probably changed myself, and this is more a matter of preference than anything else, I have a tough time accepting Roadblock with the beard. I don't have a tough time accepting the fact that a man his size couldn't grow a well-volumed beard. I just don't like the look particularly on Roadblock. I would say it still kept a mustache, or at the very least, extend that fully to give him a goatee. A full beard, you know, for me, it's just not my personal preference, but it's just more of a taste thing than anything else. I would have just stuck with the idea of keeping it with a mustache. The face actually is good. I like the face sculpt on Roadblock. Coloring on this guy, for the most part, is actually really quite good. Even like the vest, which is surprisingly a separate piece, leading me to believe that perhaps down the road they're probably going to use this body for something else. They've very smartly just decided, like in the case of Scarlett, to have the costumes as being more rubberized, overlaid pieces, keeping the body underneath. And it's going to save them a lot of cost down the road of producing brand new molds. One nice little detail he's got to the side of his arm is a tattoo of a lion. I don't feel a look that I could pull off myself, but I'm not the big towering behemoth that certainly Roadblock is. It's a nice looking tattoo. Obviously it loses a bit when you start rotating the bicep. That tiger looks like he's going for a very stretched out yawn. We'll talk about the articulation in a second. Coloring is kept generally quite muted. We'll bring in, say, the likes of Duke. I just want to show you guys side to side. They share very similar sort of colors, more so down to the lower legs, keeping to more the dark greens, dark khaki colors. And then, you know, again, they've just got these little accents of gold. It's strange why the gold has to be so different from it. I mean, here's Duke's. If you put the side-to-side comparison, Duke's is a more lighter metallic color. And then we can bring in Scarlett's. Scarlett's had more of, again, that closer, I guess more of a copper gold color. Not really sure, again, why. I don't know why. I shouldn't be spending so much time talking about it, but I really don't know why they use so much different golds, not keeping the same color. He's got some red accents there, certainly on the front of his shin guards. He's got reds also on his hands, like Duke. Scarlett didn't have the red on her gloves, so we're kind of mixing it up a bit. There's detailing done on the back of the figure, some nice additional golds along the top with that additional cranberry burgundy red, and the little pockets of that light blue. Now, I did think, and I had an assumption I was going to make that I mentioned with Scarlett. Scarlett's got one also on her shoulder. Duke doesn't have one on his shoulder, but he does have one on his bandolier. I guess technically, if you flipped Duke's bandolier the opposite way, his would also be running along on top of his shoulder. But I'm wondering if these are all serving as communicators. Without really an attached cartoon or a comic series, again, I'm not really sure if these are communicators, but being that they all sort of look the same shape, all share similar colors, gotta believe that that's probably some sort of communication device that the Joes communicate with one another. As I said, like, he's a decent looking figure. I have one problem with these figures so far. I feel like there's some stubbornness to the top areas of their thighs. Anybody that's picked up these figures for themselves will either probably agree with me or say perhaps that their figures are perfectly fine. But I noticed even on, like, Scarlett, there is some real stubbornness when it comes to moving her legs forward and back. They do have these sort of now drop-down joints where the legs normally would sit in the sockets of the tops of the hip, but then you can also drop these legs further down as well. I don't know what it is. I just feel like the legs are a little... They fight a lot, it seems, when I want to be rotating in and out and, like I said, forward and back. Duke also had that, and I can't help but also feel like Roadblock's also got sort of the same idea. Like, he can move his legs, but like I said, there's something that sort of holds them back a bit. Like you're fighting with the joint the whole time. Anyways, the articulation on Roadblock, having just already mentioned a little bit of that in the legs, his head rotates all the way around. Luckily, the collar that's on his vest is soft, rubbery plastic. And as you can see, again, if I just move that slightly out of the way, you can see how there's a fully sculpted body underneath all that. Curious as to what they're going to do with that. But needless to say, the head rotates all the way around, it hinges up and down. And then Roadblock, much like the other Joes, has additional articulation. You can probably see the cut right there at the base of the neck. The neck does allow the head to move just a little bit more further forward, a little bit further back, and again, you can rock that back and forth as well. So he's got quite a bit going on there. The shoulders, and you can see more of it happening here with Roadblock, more visible that the other figures didn't quite show as well. He does have a cup joint that's at the base, at the bottom here, where the start of the shoulder is. You can see there's a separate bit of plastic. That allows the shoulders to hinge forward and back. That's even before we start talking about the arms. The arms rotate all the way around. You can hinge the arm out at a full, comfortable 90-degree bend. You can also rotate the bicep. Let's not swivel the shoulder in the process. You rotate this all the way around as well. And like Duke, Roadblock does have a double hinge on the elbow. It's a shame, again, Scarlett didn't have that. The hands rotate all the way around, no problems whatsoever there. The hands hinge back and forth. Then when he gets to the torso joint should have technically a ball joint up at the top here, but it's hidden by, of course, the vest that's covering over top of it. And then he's got a secondary one that's at the base, just right above the waist. His waist does also swivel back and forth. These new Joes, of course, don't feature the O-ring, long since a past idea. Be interesting to see them come back, but the cost of producing the Joes when doing this, of course, is just a lot cheaper and a lot easier. Can't see them ever going back to the idea of doing O-rings. The legs go forward, the legs go back, and it stops sort of, unfortunately, just because the sculpting of the back of the Roadblock's behind. Let me just draw your attention to Roadblock's behind. Feast your eyes. Okay. The legs go back, and like I said, that's as far back as they're going to go. They split out comfortably, and yet again, there's like this strangeness, there's a tightness when I want to move the legs forward and back. I'm not really sure what's causing that. It's almost as if there's that secondary joint that's inside that allows this, like I said, to hinge up and down. I would have almost just done away with that altogether, just in favor of just a regular ball joint. Seems the easiest and most practical when it comes to moving the legs forward and back. He has a swivel on the 3/4 cut of the thigh. Basically 3/4 up the way of the thigh is the cut of the swivel. He does have a double hinge on the knee, a little tighter because he's got, of course, the knee guards in the front there. And then for the shin guard area, it actually rotates just above that. A good way to conceal the articulation. The foot moves up and down. You can also rock the foot back and forth. And he doesn't have any toe articulation, but he most definitely does have peg holes on the undersides of his feet. Roadblock is one of the easier Joes to stand up, simply just because he's got very broad feet. Allows him to stand and not topple over. Of course, if you want to incorporate the very large firepower that he's packing as well, you do have, of course, then the teetering issue where the figure may fall over. But because he does have peg holes on the undersides of his feet, simply just use another display stand from another company, and you shouldn't have any issues with Roadblock falling over on you. One thing I've really yet to experience in the new Hasbro G.I. Joe Classified series is an actual Cobra. While looking at Duke, Scarlett, now Roadblock, I'm lacking, I feel, in the Cobra department. Unfortunately, so is Hasbro. The first wave consisted of 5 figures, and 4 of those 5 figures were Joes, with the Snake Eyes being the only other figure that I hadn't picked up yet in this wave. But I really would definitely like to see more Cobras making the rounds, especially for Wave 2, Wave 3, and so on. We were teased, of course, the looks of what Cobra Commander is going to look like, but I want to also see some other things as well. Don't just simply throw in a Red Ninja, or of course a Storm Shadow, which seems to be sharing what will be probably the exact same mold. But I want to see the likes of the Crimson Twins. I want to see Zartan, some of the Dreadnoks, and the teased on the back of the box with this exquisite artwork, I might add, a Baroness, who apparently is sporting gold shoulder pads. I'm not really sure how I feel about that, but being such a big fan of Baroness, I'm really looking to see what Hasbro's going to do with a Baroness figure down the road. I feel it's probably going to use a lot of similar mold elements to Scarlett, the figure that we've already looked at from this first wave. Then, of course, we get to the big man. This is Roadblock, a figure that towers over the other 2 figures from this first wave. He's a big, bulky Roadblock. I feel that's the way he should be. Short of maybe changing his beard, I'm having a tough time still accepting him with the beard. I would have preferred to see him in a mustache or a goatee at least, but that's again just based on the way I always picture Roadblock. He's a good beefy size, he sports a similar outfit to his vintage counterpart, and he's got a huge honkin' gun, which looks some sort of a futuristic railgun. I like if you're going to be giving him futuristic military weapons as opposed to more traditional military weapons, this would be the type of weapon I would imagine Roadblock to actually be wielding. He can, it seems, to be holding it in several different ways. I feel this would be my go-to way of displaying the gun in his hand. And like I said, he's a good sized figure. I do like the fact that he's bigger than both Duke and Scarlett. What do you guys think of Roadblock, and more importantly, what are you guys thinking of the new G.I. Joe Classified series? Let me know down below in the comments section. Also, if you guys are new to this channel and liking the content that you're seeing, consider the idea of hitting the subscribe button that's located just below this video. Also, you might find yourself helping yourself by also hitting that bell notification so that when future videos are coming onto this channel, you won't be the one that's missing out. Just an FYI, Monday to Friday, videos will be going onto this channel at 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you feel the need, you want to keep track of what's going on this channel and want to be there for the premieres and certainly want to be there for when the videos go on, mark it down on your calendar at 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can write it on your arm as well, but of course, personal hygiene would have to come into play sooner or later, and I'm sure whatever the notes you've crafted nicely on your arm will eventually have to fade away. If they're still there several months from now, I feel I would have to discuss with you the notion of personal hygiene. Nonetheless, though, we're going to be having a look at a lot of videos coming up and some upcoming reviews. We're going to try to go back and have a look at some more classified series figures as well. As I said, right now, I've only got these 3 figures in my stockpile. I hope to still pick up the Destro, and I definitely want to still be picking up a Snake Eyes. But let me know down below what you guys think of this line. As always, guys, thanks for watching as you always do, and I'll see you guys next time.